Welcome to Living Martial Arts with Master Ray Gale, aka the Dark Master. Living Martial Arts discusses and examines the everyday exercise, philosophy, and lifestyle of the martial arts enthusiast. The host talks about his own training, past and present, and he also interviews many martial artists to discover how they continue to live their own martial arts journey. Tune in for top tips on how to get the best out of your martial art. Or perhaps you're thinking of starting a martial art. This podcast offers you an easy way to dip your toe in. Sign up for the newsletter at livingmartialarts.com and get regular updates and training tips direct to your inbox. Follow the Dark Master on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Living Martial Arts.
Hi, hello to all the Living Martial Arts podcast fans. It's me back, the Dark Master, back again with another fantastic guest today, talking about his life in Taekwondo and some of his maybe highlights in Taekwondo, hopefully. We've got Mr. Tom Nicholson here. How are you doing?
Yeah, very, very well. Thank you very much for having me on, first of all.
Okay, excellent. Well, it's a real pleasure. Thanks for agreeing to come on. And, talk a little bit about mind you, it's our favourite passion. So martial arts in general. But I really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure my listeners will get a lot out of it. So as I always do, I'm just going to start with my first question, which usually leads on to lots of other things. And I know that those of us that teach for a living, this could go on for 3 weeks telling us about our martial arts journey and some of the challenges. So, there we go. But unfortunately, we haven't got 3 weeks. But tell us a little bit about your martial arts journey, perhaps how it started, where you've been and, what you hope to do.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely make it 3 weeks. I mean, it is as it is for you. It's my passion. So I can certainly talk about it all day. But so sorry, what was the question? Where did we begin?
Yeah, just a little bit about. I think it's always interesting because particularly those that teach full time, talking about our sort of martial arts journey. My students always ask me, how did you start? Why did you start? And things like that. And I think it's quite interesting to, find out a little bit about where people have come from, really.
Yeah, sure. Probably not dissimilar to a lot of your listeners, I would assume, in the early days. I was really, really fortunate, or I am still really, really fortunate to have really, really supportive, a really supportive family unit. So I'm one of three boys. My eldest wasn't particularly interested in the eldest brother wasn't particularly interested in martial arts. He was a footballer and went on to do well in football and triathlons and things. So health and fitness was always around us. My parents were and still are very active and fit and healthy, which I'm very blessed and pleased to say. Next oldest brother, it's all his fault, really. He found a martial arts club. He played a bit of football as well, but then found a martial arts club as a kid, a Taekwondo club, which back in the day was a TAGB club, under the guidance of Mr. now Master Bhupinder Sahota, up in Bedford. He took first of all, he trained under Kargin Moss and then Grandmaster Sahota took the club over.
Yeah.
And back in those days, the training was obviously back in the old day, everything was better. They all tell us.
Yeah, of course.
Everything was harder.
Yeah.
But no, when Grandmaster Sahota took that club over, I still wasn't training at this point. And the numbers did massively drop because the training was really, really old school, hardcore. And it wasn't for everybody. My brother was one of, I think, 6 in the class at one point. Did really well, won various titles and things. And I saw this happening and was like, I love it. Like, I'm the youngest of 3 boys. So one of my brothers is 7 years older than me. The other one's 5.5 years older than me. So we were, not in a really negative, bad way, but at home we were boys. We were fighting. We were playful.
As they should be.
Yeah, indeed. So as the youngest sibling, obviously I had a lot to prove. Obviously I was at the age of sort of 8 and 9. I was as strong as a 16-year-old and I could definitely be,
Yeah.
So I thought, I really I'd been to see him a couple of times doing what he was doing. I'd seen him at competitions. I've been to a couple of other competitions. I just fell in love with it from there, really. My parents wouldn't let me start until I'd swum. I can't remember if it was to a certain age or to a certain distance, or maybe both. But I was 10 when I started, so about 11 years ago. And I just fell in love with it. I was in a class with Grandmaster Sota's son, who was a couple of years younger than I. So we had a good friendship growing up, and a bit of a rivalry in sometimes, and competitions and things. And with him, culminated for me, I was 17. We went over to the Irish Open, and I took what was my best ever competition. It was a big best overall competitive trophy, which I held in my hand on the plane back. I won the sparring, won the special tech, and got second in patterns. I just, from that moment, I then fell in love with competition, which took me on a slightly different path. And it's interesting because even within my schools now, we separate the paths out. I hope quite well. We're trying to improve it. And so from there, I started my own school in 1998, which was a big failure. There wasn't a lot of support in how to run a school, or it wasn't particularly, well, you'll know from back in the 90s, it wasn't a professional activity then as it is now, really.
No.
So I started a little club. It wasn't really covering the Hall hire. It was down in Hemel Hempstead. I closed it down. 6 months later, a gentleman named Paul Pausick, who also trained under Grandmaster Sota, who's a very good friend of mine. Master Pausick now, he started a club in Hemel Hempstead, and I'm really proud of him, actually, to say that he took it from success to success. It wasn't the club I started. He started his own there, but it was in the same town, and he still has that club today. I think one of his instructors runs it now, and it's successful. So I had 4 years thinking about what I was going to do. 2022, I'd got a job, had a couple of jobs. Some coincidences, if you like, certain different circumstances fell into place, and I was running my own business, and it went really, really well. 2002, that was 2005. I was in a position to sell that business, and thought, right, I'm going to take 6 months off. I'm just going to carry on with my one night a week club that I started in 2002 that was going well. My wife at the time, she's not anymore, maybe this is why, I said that her one wish was that I never taught martial arts full time. So 2 months later, we had 3 clubs, and as they say, the rest is history. The club was actually 20 years old last week.
Oh wow, yeah. Cool.
And it's over that time is where the real journey's happened. We've grown to 15 locations.
Wow.
One of which is a full-time academy, 7 of which are licensed sites, and the rest are my own sites. And then we have just over 1,500 members, a team of over 20 instructors. And the best part of that for me, if I'm honest, is that I stood up at school, grew the courage, stood up and in a careers thing, and said, when they said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to teach martial arts. That's all I want to do. And she said, oh, you're going to have to get a real job. And sort of thing. Everybody laughed. She laughed.
Sounds like my dad.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I wish I could find this lady and thank her, to be honest, because she actually laughed and said, oh, how's that going to look? And I said, one day I'm going to have my own gym, lots of other classes around, team of staff, a team of instructors, and I'm just going to spread my passion as far as I can. She went, okay, well, we've done this survey, and actually we think you should join the Marines. So it is, I wish I had, actually. It would have been a great thing to do, but since that day, it wasn't like I then consciously thought, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to drive towards this goal. It kind of evolved. And it's evolved out of trying to give others opportunity. So it wasn't, although I did say that as a school kid, when I actually had the club, I didn't set out to create an instructor team and I'd love to and open all these classes. I had somebody come to me and say, I'm a black belt now, I'm a second degree. I'm covering some of your classes and doing some teaching alongside you and helping out. I'd love to have my own club. That guy was actually best man at my wedding 4 years ago. We're still still very, very good friends now, obviously. And he opened our first license school.
Yeah.
And the reason that happened was because he wanted his own club, and I said, well, I think it would be good to make this thing bigger, but keep us all together. But I don't want to be like that guy that says, well, you can't do this, you can do that.
Yeah.
So how are we going to make this work? And the license sites were born. So we created a structure around that, and it's worked for several of the team that have had that same situation. You know, they've come along and said, well, we'd like to spread this further. So, and that's really our passion with it. Our culture, within my schools is that we're all really passionate about what we do, and we just want to make a difference.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, you said a lot there actually, and I'll come back to some of it.
I could talk for 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. As I will say, you know, when instructors say it's the end, it's not the end. It's just getting close. There's a lot to come, but there's a lot there, and obviously you mentioned quite a few names there that I've had contacts with in the past, Grandmaster Sahota and a few other people. But sort of coming back, it was interesting what you said about the health and fitness family, because my family, none of them were into health and fitness. They all thought I was weird, that I'd go out running at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd run to work when I had a job in the early days 77. I started as a aircraft engineer at Rolls-Royce, and I used to run to work from the middle of Bristol, skip in my lunchtime and run home. And my family just thought I'd lost it. They just absolutely thought I lost it.
See, that can work for you, can't it? I think if you relay that back to people, I don't know, maybe celebrities and whatever, people who make it real big, like make it really rich. Yeah, there's always that story of somebody who came from nothing to make it that big, and they were obviously alien in some way. They're completely different to what maybe the rest of their family unit was doing. But equally, there's people who are born into that. Yes. And then they make it big because of contacts and things like that, but because they have to live up to something. Yeah,
definitely. I agree. Yeah,
there's different polarities from where we can come from. But I do think martial arts really unites people hugely.
Well, I think it does, and it, you know, sort of carrying on from there. I was in that position where, you know, I'd done 4 years in a really well-paid job. I was an aircraft engineer. I was working on the engine for Concorde, and you know, I came home and said, right, that's it. I'm not doing that anymore. My dad was swearing very loud in Jamaican. Anybody knows Jamaicans, when they're swearing, they're very, very visual with their hands. And he thought I completely lost my mind. So,
what did he think later on when you made a success?
Well, it was interesting. The funny thing was, my dad, he wasn't very supportive for a long time. My mother always was. My mum said, you know, if you think you can do it, you go for it. You know, I'm behind you and whatever. And actually, you know, what you said earlier, it's funny because the fact that he said I couldn't do it made me do it, and made me stick at it, and made me go. I didn't have to say anything because all of a sudden my schools were growing. I was making a living. You know, I had a decent car and whatever, all that sort of thing. So it was obvious that I was going to do it. I did have hard times, by the way, I will tell you. I mean, the early 80s in martial arts, particularly trying to be a full-time martial arts instructor, was quite tough. And you'd go up to, you know, try getting students in was difficult because you didn't have the social media thing, and, you know, it was posters, it was a lot of legwork and that type of thing. But I did it. And considering, I mean, you know, you mentioned about football. I mean, football was my first love. There was nobody who was going to tell me I wasn't going to be a professional football player. You know, and I had some trials, and you know, I played a very high standard sort of level of football. I played county league football, which was one down from semi-pro. I was overlapping fullback. I had a good engine. I could go back up and down that field all day. So I was that sort of wing back that they have today. Yeah. And when I realised that I wasn't going to make it, I just thought, you know what, I'll do something else. And I was already doing martial arts, and I made the decision that was going to be my thing. You know, and that was it. So, you know, there are quite a few things there. It was interesting what you said about the fitness family, because my family just saw it. Yeah. They also say, yeah, that's Ray. You know what he's like. He's a bit mad.
Yeah. So, that's good, right?
Yeah.
So my parents with their fitness, like my dad's in the gym 4 times a week, I think now.
Yeah.
My mum as well, but she started playing competitive squash when I was born, which is 1980. She still plays in the leagues now.
Oh, wow.
She's 7. I probably shouldn't say how, but she's in her 70s. Let's put it that way. I remember kind of leaving school, getting a job, etc., and then her beating the guys that I used to go to school with in the leagues. And squash is a hard game.
It is, yeah.
And she's still playing in those leagues now.
Oh, fair play to her. That's brilliant. And
absolute lunatic.
Well, it's great, isn't it? And it's funny what you said that, because my older children, my boys, or men as they are now, eldest is sort of 36. I mean, he's into. I mean, they're both black belts. My older kids, they don't train anymore, but I sort of instilled that sort of lifestyle in them. And he runs marathons all over the world. He's done New York, Boston, New Orleans. He's done all the big marathons. He's still running. My second lad plays football, and I love it. I love the fact that they have a fitness, health lifestyle. So it's really good. And I'm glad that they saw me every day going out to do something, or doing push-ups in the garden, and chin-ups with them on my back, putting them on my back and doing chins and all that sort of stuff. And I still do it to this day. I love my fitness. So it's good. It's good. Interesting what you said about the martial arts school and the separate paths, because I mean, what I do now, for example, on a Tuesday in one of my schools, I give them the choice between doing technical stuff and doing sparring. So I have one of my black belts teaching the sparring, so they can, all the young guns are usually doing the sparring, and then not all the time. Maybe some of the older ones are doing maybe more of the technical stuff and things like that. Whereas, as you say, when you started, you did it all. You got your gloves on.
I remember we weren't allowed to enter a competition and not do all of it. They would, whoever your instructor was, I think it was quite a common thing. You'd hand in your paper entry form.
Yeah.
Back then, obviously more and more of them are online now, but you'd hand in your paper entry form, and if you hadn't ticked everything, the next time you looked down, your instructor had ticked everything anyway. You were doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely. Well, that was the same with us. He used to come up and say, "Yeah, you just sign this." What is it? It's a tournament form. Okay. Just sign it. That was it. No choice. Just sign it. Okay. Yeah. And also the other thing as well is, I started. I was in the KGB, and with certain things, I had a few challenges, let's say, and I actually started a business in the 90s. I started a cleaning business in Cardiff in South Wales, actually, which went really, really well. It was really good, and it was domestic cleaning. Hired a load of cleaners and got somebody to do a lot of the admin, and I was really running it from home on a computer at that time, and it went really well. But I remember one day thinking, actually, I really want to teach martial arts full time. So I stopped doing that, and I sold that business. I got a good income from it, because it was a really thriving business, a good amount for it. And then myself and Mastro, formed Puma Martial Arts, and there we go. But it's strange that sort of burning desire to actually follow your passion and do certain things never leaves you. And I'm glad I did. So
yeah. Well, I left the THB, if you like, only by virtue of the fact that my instructor left, which is what happens with the politics and the rubbish that goes on in martial arts. And then went through various stages and things, but wound up ITF. Where, I remember they left in '93, and the reason I remember was because they left 6 months before my black belt grading. I think it was 4 months before. And I had to obviously learn this whole new thing called sine wave.
Been there.
It was different then to it is now. We can talk about that forever and a day. So we moved through the ITF, and I went through competing, went to national team, and there wasn't so many splits and so many groups then, so the tournament scene was very different. Like you didn't go to tournaments and have 3 people in a category. You had a lot of rounds, and I enjoyed, and I wanted. You said about splitting your classes off. I wanted to spar because I loved the fitness aspect, and I loved hitting bags and hitting pads, and if I'm honest, I loved hitting people too. And I was just like, I want to fight. That's what I want to do. The truth is, I wasn't that good at that. And what I got selected for the national team for 2001 was patterns. My first time out there at the Euros. Don't think anything was expected. No, I came back with won the first bronze medal of the England team.
Yeah,
one of their medals at that tournament.
Was that Italy? That wasn't Rimini, was it?
No, that was Rimini. I think was the Worlds that year.
Oh right, okay.
Because that was. I'm pretty sure that was Spain.
Okay, no worries.
There seems to be a lot of ITF competitions in Spain or Italy, though. Even today, so. And I fell out of love with competing. There was, again, political issues in martial arts got in the way. I had some decisions that went against me, some that I felt were politically made, some that probably weren't, and some that probably were. And I vowed to not compete. And that was another key, actually, to some of the success of my schools, because I said, right, well, I'm not competing. So I put all that energy and all that focus into building the schools. And just before my 5th degree grading, so you can imagine quite a lot of years later, it was 2012, I went along, I said, I've got my grading coming up, I'm going to need to put myself under pressure, I'll enter a tournament. And the next tournament coming up was the national selections. So I did that, and I got all 5 judges every round through to the final and won. Was approached to asked to join the team, went out to the Euros again, so it was the first big tournament like that. Really for sort of 10 years, and went all the way through to the final and lost by the smallest margin possible to a certain unknown person. I'm sure nobody's heard of Master Suska.
I remember that name from somewhere.
And that was his last Euros. That was his 20th.
Oh, okay.
That was his 20th title. And I remember afterwards, kind of embraced afterwards, and I said to him, you're an absolute legend of the sport. Like it must be incredible. And do you know what he said?
Yeah, go on.
I'm just tired. I thought, for God's sake, if you're that tired, you could let me win. But he's a good friend now. I went over after that. He did the next Worlds, and then he retired from competition. And I tried to go over a year to train with him and his instructor. Master Yedit comes to my gym each year. And
oh wow, that's great.
The friendships that were built from that era of competition were fantastic. Well, I first got introduced to Suska, Master Suska, actually when we came from the THB in 2000. He came along to our seminar, and the General Che, and we were sort of doing this thing. General Che was introducing us to this sine wave system, and I've said this to many people because the seminar was a 3-day thing. We had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I remember Friday we started this, and I was thinking, what is this? And I was like, I just couldn't get it. And I was actually supposed to take my grading, my 6th degree grading on the Sunday under General Che. I remember going to bed Friday night thinking, right, okay, we're going to do this for 2 days. And then the Monday, we're just going to go back to what we know. That was it. And then I remember on the Sunday, I was due to interview General Che. So I remember knocking on his door and saying to him, "Oh, sir, I'd just like to do an interview with you." He said, "Oh, yeah, come on in." He was really nice, actually. And I asked him a load of questions. And it was just his passion and his answers for those questions that made me think. I walked out of the room and thought, no, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to do this. We're going to do this, and we're going to do it the best of our ability, and I'm going to learn how to do it properly. And that was it. And it completely changed my mind. Just what a power he had.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I think the first question I asked him, "What does Taekwondo mean to you, sir?" And an hour later, he was still talking about it. And I was like that, going. And the funny thing was, in my tape, it was a cassette. That tells you how I had a cassette tape.
Sorry, I don't know.
yeah. For all the youngsters listening to this, you might have to Google cassette tape. But
a pencil to wind it up.
Not TKD, but TDK, a cassette tape, and I was there, and it ran out, and I didn't even realise it had stopped. It was just, it was a fantastic
you still
time.
Got the recordings though? Do you still have?
Well, I have got the recording. And I've sort of kept it. And people have said to me, "Oh, why don't you do this?" I said, "No, it was a private conversation," because he said a lot of things on there that, in the General Che way, that were probably I don't know, wouldn't be well received. Let's put it that way.
But he was who he was. I remember that. seminar because I wasn't there, and that's why I remember it. I trained with him. I think it was in Leicester, but I think it was 97, 98 around then.
Yeah.
And then he came back over for that one with me, and there was some reason why I couldn't make it, and I was gutted. But Master Palchich was there, and he sat his fourth degree under him there. It's one of his proudest moments because
that's right. Yeah.
Fourth degree holds a lot of holds a lot of stature in Taekwondo, I suppose. I don't know what the right word is, but it's significant. Yeah. So to get that under the general, but in your own country, that was fair play to him as well. But and that seminar's often talked about when we talk to people about the old days. So fair play to it, and well done to you guys for
Well, it was quite a queue in the way because actually another person that were there was Laszlo Hamet from Hungary.
Yes. He's in the encyclopedia, isn't he? I can't remember which pattern.
That's right. He does that, and I remember taking my grading, and it was awful. It was awful. I was going up when I should be going down, back when I should be going forwards, and my head was going. And I just wanted the floor to open up and swallow me up. And I remember I did the grading, and I was quite down. I was quite down, to be honest. I remember he came up and he said, "Oh, you didn't do very well." I just felt like
you can't do that anymore, can you?
No, I just felt like turning and hitting him actually, and saying, "Sorry, I've been doing this for 2 days." Yeah, exactly. I've done hip twist style since 70s, and I didn't do very well. Yeah, I'm not surprised. But anyway, that's history.
I've forgiven him. Taekwondo, he is though.
He is. Yeah. I've forgiven him, and I realised that probably from his perspective, I probably didn't. But looking back, actually, I thought I did really well, considering.
Well, it was 2 days,
Yeah, considering. But so moving on from there, and as I say, it's interesting with these conversations because you can just go on forever and ever with some of this stuff, and different things keep coming into your mind. But you mentioned about your instructors and the schools that you run and so on, and obviously the students. I mean, I like to think that what I try to do is I try to empower particularly the younger students with self-confidence. People all think, it's about fighting and about punching someone if they're upset you or whatever, and I try and say, look, it's about trying to remain calm, assess the situation, walking away, and things like that. So, what sort of things do you feel the most important thing is to instill in, particularly the younger members?
Exactly that, in everybody. And I believe, I'm really passionate about this. I really believe we as martial arts instructors have a duty to not only spread it as far and wide as we can. And I have a really clear goal personally for myself my life, if you like, my goal is to positively affect millions of people. Yeah. However I can. And that's what my thrust is behind growing the schools. And now to positively affect them, does teaching people to kick and punch really positively affect them? Not if it's just that. Not, there's a million different ways of doing that. It's the confidence, it's the discipline, it's the respect. Now, what's happened is, as I believe, as martial arts has become a more professional activity, if you like, people have professed to be teaching that. But I find that quite interesting because I coach school owners to help grow their schools, because I realised that I'm growing my schools, but how could I positively affect even more people? Well, actually, if I can coach other school owners, and I'm fortunate to have clients now all around the UK and Ireland, if I can coach them to grow their schools, then that's me having an increased positive effect a positive effect on an increased number of people. Yes. So one of the questions I would pose to them is, okay, so you want to maybe improve your marketing or change your communications a little bit, and they're saying, and we need to be talking about promoting confidence as an example. Great. But how do you teach confidence? What is it you do? And just to make the instructors and school owners think a little bit deeper of, well, I teach confidence because I teach Taekwondo or I teach kickboxing or whatever. Yeah, but how? What is it that you're doing, you're delivering? So with that in mind, I have and lots of people do, and I know you guys do within Puma. We have our 4 to 6 year old program. Ours is done by monkeys. You guys have, is it Little Pumas?
Little Pumas, Little Pumas.
And the life skills have been brought in, and they've been brought into this country originally from America, and it was an American idea. So I ran, I think, 4 different programs. 3 of them were American.
Yes.
Before writing my own.
Yeah.
And trying to take, earthquake and hurricane safety wasn't so relevant for us. And things like that. But so we developed that system, and it's really, really structured now, so that other schools have purchased that, and it's really easy for school owners to run that system. But from that, actually, from teaching that younger age group, we've dragged that into our Taekwondo and our kickboxing syllabuses as well. Not in a way that we would sit down and have as they term it, a mat chat with them necessarily, but we'll teach them, we'll take some of those lessons from the life skills that we have 8 life skills included in our 4 to 6s. So we'll take some of those lessons through and teach them in a more appropriate way. And then also we build a culture within the school where we're celebrating people's successes. So for example, a lot of people will share something on social media, for example. So if there's any school owners that are listening, I don't know entirely who your audience is, but they'll share things like little Freddie got his new belt, or got a Star of the Week certificate, or whatever. It frustrates me so much, because what's missing from that is the why and the what from that. Little Freddie's got Star of the Week. Great. Well done, little Freddie. Little Freddie's got Star of the Week because we've heard that through his confidence he's developed from taking these steps in martial arts, he's now at school, he's putting his hand up more, and actually he's been nominated for school council, and he's now going to stand up in front of his peers and make a speech in front of people. Those sorts of things. That's what martial arts empowers you to do. So to posing the question to school owners of, well, how do you do that? How do you instill discipline in them? How do you teach them respect? So we all, as Taekwondo instructors, I hope everybody bows at the start and end of every class, and at the start and end of working with a partner. Do the instructors actually take the time to explain to the younger members why do we bow? Why? Well, it's a mark of respect, isn't it? It comes across from more Eastern traditions, but it's a mark of respect to them. That's the primary reason. Well, what does respect mean? And how much further do we go with teaching these things within the class? None of us want to make our Taekwondo lessons or whatever martial art it is into a theory lesson of just talking. And most people who love martial arts and passionate about it aren't necessarily audible learners anyway. A lot of them are visual. So we can't necessarily just talk about it. We need to talk about it, but then we need to show that in physical ways. So just delving deeper with those students a little bit, and taking, as much as giving them real life examples, taking their real life examples when they have an issue, or being that safe person that they can come and talk to you about as their instructor, and saying, look, I'm having an issue with a kid at school who's doing this. We're in a privileged position that we can really not just inspire, but educate these kids. So I've got one as an example, and he sent me, actually I've got several, but 2 in particular sent me messages on the club's 20th anniversary. Both of those kids, I'm going to call them, started training with me pretty much on their 4th birthday. One of them is a full-time martial arts instructor employed by me full-time. And that's all he's wanted to do, and that is what he does. And the other one also works for us, but he's off at university as well, so he's doing a bit of both. But what they said within their messages, each of them actually quite choked me up, if I'm honest. And what their parents have said to us as well is that we've had such an influence over them, because yes, you go to school and you can have a really influential teacher, and I'm sure lots of your listeners will have a teacher who you remember. When you think back to your school days, you remember them, whether it be for good or for bad, but hopefully somebody who's inspired you in some way.
Definitely.
Whether it's what we spoke about earlier, through challenging you of, well, you can't do that, or through praising you of, and really supporting you. We have a teacher that we can remember, but I was in 3-tier when I went to school, but now it's 2-tier. So we're at primary school for what, six years, is it? Something like that? Yeah. And secondary school about the same. But we have students who, they're not in the class every day, but they're in there at least 2 times a week. And it's on a more personal level, I believe. And they can be with us for 20 plus years.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And influence, and in fact, I know some of your students who you have influence of that over, the Whitlocks, for example.
Yeah, definitely. They again started with me when they were 6, 7. I've got students who've been with me for 30 years. Still, yeah,
because they're the ones I know of are fantastic martial artists. But we have so it's our it's our duty to actually responsibly teach them more than just how to kick and punch. And in fact, if you just teach them kick and punch, I don't think they'd stay with you for 30 years.
No. I completely concur with all of that, and I think there has to be that. I want to call it respect, but actually, I'd go stronger than that. I'd call it a love. In the right way.
We refer to our club as a family.
Yeah. It is, and when I meet with those people that have been with me for such a long time, I do feel, I often joke with some of the students of theirs, and I say, I'm your Taekwondo granddad, I taught your dad, and stuff like that. And so I call it that. I'm old enough to be one now, but I call it that. And I genuinely mean it, because actually I do have that real feelings for the people, well, all of my people. I want them to be the best version of them that they can be. And I truly want them to be the best version of them that they can be.
100%. And it really, the martial arts can, with all the talk of mental health and stuff that's out there now, which is all positive that it's more open and out there, it really can be a safe space for students as well as instructors.
Yes.
So in end of 2013, I pretty much lost everything. I moved out of the family home that I lived in. I had nowhere to live. I was too stubborn to go to my parents, who did offer that.
Yeah.
And I lived and slept in my gym, because that was what I had, for just over 3 months before I was able to go and get somewhere to rent and stay in. But I never wanted anyone to know that. So we'd have early morning fitness classes that came in at 6 a.m. So I'd be up at 5 so that I was, or up before 5 and gone at 5 so that I was definitely gone before the instructor came in to take that, so they wouldn't know. I was sleeping under my desk in the office.
Right, yeah.
And I pretty much lost everything except the club. But some of the closer students and senior grades knew that there was stuff going on. But from the rest of the club, it was almost like a meditation, because when I delivered the classes, I was just there with just the students in a different place, a different zone, and it was my happy place. And that, so as well as martial arts being the thing I would credit, one of the things I would credit to being hopefully relatively successful and achieving what I want to achieve and helping others, it's as cheesy as it might sound, it also saved me, because that could have gone that situation for me could have gone really, really south. But having that family, that community, that responsibility of people, and that you could look at that as a student or as an instructor, that's what really kept me going, and that's what got me through that period of my life. So I genuinely believe it's a vehicle for anybody, actually, but really is a vehicle for success as well, if that's what people want.
Well, no, that's excellent, and you said some fantastic things there. And I hope those instructors that are listening, because I know quite a few of mine do, and some of the students just take a little bit from that, because it does mean so much. And when you're a teacher of, say, martial arts, well, you're actually much more than that. You're a counsellor, as we know. Not just a teacher, but a counsellor. Sometimes you have to be a mum or a dad as well on certain occasions. I've said to people that I've had students come to me when they've been in trouble, for example, in some kind of trouble. They didn't want to tell their parents, so they've told me for me to tell their parents. So, I mean, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that, a huge amount of responsibility. And I do take it very seriously. But I love the fact that they trust me enough to confide in me.
Indeed. And it's also a reason why we should only strive to make martial arts more and more professional, because having the proper procedures and processes and things in place, resources in place for when those situations occur, and being able to guide people in the right direction. Because we learn what's handed down from our instructors in martial arts. there are instructor training courses out there. I've written one with a friend of mine who coaches as well, who's from different martial arts background, which is the Martial Art Instructor University, which is out there, and people can purchase that to train as instructors. But this stuff, we just learn really what's handed down.
Yes.
And it's important that as professional schools, we do it properly, because sadly, there has been incidences of people not doing it properly and things going wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a huge responsibility. It's kids, and they're the next generation, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, thanks for that. I appreciate your insights on that. The other thing I want to sort of mention on that is the difference now in, say, martial arts from the 70s to now is how much more inclusive. And I know I was talking to you off audio about my new over 60s class that I'm quite excited about, starting, which I'm starting very, very soon. And the fact that, you know, when I started, it was basically young lads, you know, we were all wanting to just fight and hit each other, really. And we've been watching Bruce Lee, and we wanted to jump over things and kick things. And that was it. But now, probably like yourself, my youngest student is 4. My oldest student is well over 60, well, nearly 70, actually. And also, the listeners to this podcast will know that, I grade a group of ladies in Stroud called the Tough Old Birds. And they chose the name. They're all in their 70s and 80s. The eldest one is 84. And it's changed their life. So I like the fact that it's inclusive. I don't know whether you have different classes like that, or you're thinking of doing that in the future.
Yeah, we do ladies only. We're looking at introducing a men's only class, which a client of mine's recently done with massive success.
Yeah.
And then obviously we have them split down by ages, by grade groups as well. So yeah, we do the ladies only kickboxing is what we do for them. And then obviously because we have the gym, the full-time gym, we have the fitness classes as well. So yeah, there's definitely something for everyone.
Yeah.
We do family classes as well as the split age groups, and adult only. But the I don't know the politically correct phraseology for it. Let's just stick with over 60s. That's not something we do. Mature.
I am. Although I profess to be, I'm actually a lot older. I do lie about my age. People think I'm over 60, but I'm much younger than that. I think it's called more mature students.
Well, anyway, those classes. I think that's fantastic that you're doing that, and it will change people's lives. And I wish you all the best with it, because
thank you.
Like I say, it's about affecting people positively, isn't it? And and that can happen at any stage. I remember having a kid join. He's quite severely autistic. He's and his grandmother joined with him. She sadly stopped, but she was in her 60s then. She joined our standard family class. And we just kind of had to say, well, just do what you can.
Yeah.
She loved it. She has stopped now, but actually the grandkid that she inspired by being there with him and supporting him, he's one of our black belts. He's carried on. He's 18 years old now.
Oh, wow.
And still training. But yeah, the effect you will have on those people that you're training will be phenomenal. That's really cool.
Definitely. Well, the other thing I'd like to actually go away from martial arts in a way. I know we were sort of talking off audio, and I was telling you about my passion for guitars and the fact that I can't stop buying the things. I'm also passionate about motorbikes as well. I like my motorbikes, and I've got a few at the moment. But I always like to ask people what they do when they're not doing martial arts or teaching, and that's quite difficult because my life is consumed with martial arts and teaching. So sometimes I'm lucky, see, because I go to bed quite early and I get up at a ridiculous time. So I do my training, my guitar playing, my harmonica in the morning before anyone else is up. I like to play the harmonica as well. So I'm just asking you, what are the passions you have, really?
There's been a few, but when I'm not teaching martial arts, I'm teaching martial arts school owners. So
okay, that's fine.
No, that's on the work side. But we just before lockdown, actually, me and he's a partner in one of our clubs. So again, it still relates to martial arts.
It's martial arts.
My best mate, but he and I said, do you know what? We've both been competitive athletes all our lives. So he started martial arts a little bit later, but he was a very good rugby player in his younger days. And I said, we both love sport, but we're going to try not to compete. And we took up golf.
Oh, right. Oh, dear.
And, yeah, exactly. Now we're really old. But that has become...
No, I was thinking about saying you're not going to compete.
Yeah, well, yeah. But we've been all right. We've done all right on it, actually. Well, our wives don't actually believe us, but we've done okay. But we haven't...
I do love golf, by the way. Yeah, I actually love golf. I actually moved house and moved next to a golf course, a golf school. Yeah, so that I could play golf. And in the end, I had to stop myself doing it because I knew I would... Because when I was an engineer, we used to come off of nights and all go and play golf. But go on, sorry.
Fantastic. No, that's great. We should play sometime. So we on a Wednesday morning, we do 18 holes, and that is a complete non-negotiable in diary. Yeah. That's what we do every Wednesday. And then I and another lad do 9 holes early on a Friday morning. So I'm back in the office at 9 o'clock, ready to go. So we've taken up that. And the physical training over the years, so I've been 32 years, I've been doing martial arts, and I still am. Yeah. But it does take a toll on your body. You can't do it at the same level and whatever. Yes. So I'm very fortunate that we now have a swimming pool, hydro swimming pool though. So it's like a running machine.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Water at you and you just swim into it. Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of swimming. And I've always kept up with my weight training and stuff anyway. So really, to be honest, it's physical activity that just gets me going. But that's reduced the impact a bit doing the swimming. Yeah. Doing the golf was probably destroying my shoulders and my back. I don't know. But we get on that first tee and sort of say, breathe out a big sigh, and all the stress disappears.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Well, the thing, I mean, I have mentioned it on this podcast. I did do a little, a small podcast on it. But the thing that I found, apart from, I did take up cycling for some time, and I didn't mind it. But actually, what I do now, which my students will know, is I do HIIT sessions on a mini trampoline, and I love it. It takes away all the impact. I have one here, and I do that a few times a week. And I actually do it sometimes do it out in the garden, and I have people walking past thinking, "What is he doing?" But I actually don't care. But I actually love it. I think it's fantastic exercise on the trampoline. Just doing some HIIT sessions.
The other thing that I have to say I do, because this is my absolute way above everything else, love, is that I have 4 children. Yes. But my youngest, my boy, so I've got 3 girls and then a boy, and my youngest boy is only 6 years old. The girls are older now. He's only 6 years old. And I have a beautiful wife. So me and my wife and him doing things together is above all. I'd even move golf for it. There you go. Yeah, that's beautiful. yeah, definitely. But that's my main passion. Is seeing him, and he's a real. I think people are going to think I've pushed him, and I really haven't. Yeah. He's a real sportsman. Yeah. And in fact, it's a bit of an issue in that we just cannot get him around to all the clubs. I know lots of parents say similar things. Absolutely flying with his martial arts. I mean, he's very strong, but he's got his mum's hypermobility as well, so it's super flexible. So he's built for it. He's playing rugby, football, tennis. Oh wow. It's just, he's doing everything, and swimming. He's a good swimmer as well. So just seeing him do his thing is my new biggest passion, really.
Brilliant. Well, listen, we're sort of coming to the end of this, and I'll say that I have another 20 questions for you. So unfortunately, you're going to have to come back and do this again sometime. I'll get through the other questions, but it's been a real pleasure chatting to you, and I really hope that people can take some insights from this. And I think, your passion and my passion for what we do will come over in this, because, it is something that, we do as I often say to people say, "Oh, what do you do for a job?" And I say, "Well, I haven't got a job. I got a passion," because I never want to retire. And I say to people, I'm never retiring. I'll get to 95 and I might slow down a little bit. Yeah. But I'll keep going because I've got nothing to get away from. And that's the thing. So
what I will say to you as well, I would like to say, is that strangely, being in this world, which is relatively small, niche world, we've never really come across each other that much until more recently with the Puma competitions and things. Yeah. But I've always seen you there. I've always seen you there, kind of on the radar, and what you've done and what you've created within Puma, and one of the things I did is inspirational. But I remember I went down to the first, for me, Puma competition.
Yeah.
Came back and I said to the team, they're the competitions we want to attend, because there was little things, and I always find it's the little things that make the difference. There was little things that made the whole culture, and everybody there was so nice, so friendly, although it was competitive, and it was definitely competitive. It was nice, and it was, for me, the right culture, the way martial arts should be. And one of the little things that I really respected was that you and Master O were stood there at the door welcoming everybody. You know, in the days of old, I know that I remember being at competitions and they would stop us mid-round, so that we won't name names, but so that the head honchos could walk in, sit down, and then would carry on. And I'm like, I'm a minute into 2 minutes of trying to beat this guy up. But yeah, seeing you guys, the way you ran that, and the way you were, and having you kind of on the radar has been a really big thing for me. It's been a really good thing. So you might not know it, but you've inspired and influenced there as well. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And, it's something that myself and Master are really passionate about, the fact that, we need to be there, and we need to have, the welcoming faces in and smile. And, I often say to parents, they always say, "Oh, can you take a picture?" I said, "It'd be my pleasure." I said, "If you allow me to, yes, I will." So I think that's the way to be. It's a mutual respect, isn't it?
It is. And also, but you guys are very real in that there's a lot of martial arts instructors. There's a lot of, and there shouldn't be, because it's the opposite of what martial art teaches, but there's a lot of ego around martial arts sometimes.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas you guys are real. You laugh at yourselves as well, and that's a big skill that any martial arts instructor, I believe, needs to have, because none of us are perfect. We all mess up. We all throw a kick and fall on our ass. Opening night and whatever. Good luck with 60-year-olds. But being able to laugh at yourself and be real, and also hold that position of leadership that you hold is the way it should be, in my view. So you're a leader in that way. You're a leader of leaders in that way for me.
Well, no, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And hopefully our paths will cross a bit more in the future. I hope, and go out and have a chat and so on. But I'd love to have you back on the podcast. Hear about your schools, how they're going, and so on. Anybody listen to this, if you want to connect with Mr. Tom Nicholson, then we'll put some bits and pieces in the show notes about maybe some of the things he's involved with. So do take advantage of it. As I said, I hope it has come through. I'm sure it has, his passion for what he does. And, just take advantage and go along, have a look, have a try. But thank you very much for that. If you can hang around for a bit, I'll chat to you some more if you mind. So those that are listening, thank you very much for listening to me, the Dark Master, and Mr. Tom Nicholson. You've been listening to the Living Martial Arts podcast, and we'll catch up with you very soon. Thank you.